My name is Brendan Rooney. I am a reporter for the Daily Planet. We are starting our interview with Trae Romano. He is Mike Dugan on Stargirl on the CW. And Mike, I'm so sorry. I mean, Trey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm hanging in there. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I just had college today, so just another day.
Great, great. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Thanks a lot. This means a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm just like gonna get into it.
Yeah.
How did you get into acting? What drew you to it?
Um, Number one, I grew up in a family that, you know, always watched movies and were very, involved with artistically driven movies. And, I grew up watching, you know, um, Wes Anderson's movies. I grew up watching Sofia Coppola's movies. And it really like kind of always was just around me, I guess, just like that kind of creativeness and wanting to just keep watching actually like creatively fulfilling movies. And the more creators I started watching and following, and more films that I started watching, I wanted to get involved in you know some aspect of the industry. But I guess the real first time that I was ever actually like on a set and got involved that way was my good family friend works with the Fairley Brothers, still does, and he was doing Hall Pass with Owen Wilson, and that was the first time that I was really on a set. And also after that, he did the Three Stooges with Larry David and a few of those guys. I'm not sure the whole cast, but yeah. So I was kind of exposed to being on set very early on, and I just like always kind of had a love for movies, and all that together it kind of blended into me wanting to be in the industry. And I was in Atlanta, and Atlanta was always kind of not always, more recently definitely, it's been a hot spot for film and the industry in general. But when I first started, it wasn't always like that, and I started going out to LA, and pilot and episodic season. And it was a great time. I've made some friends for life, and it's you know I'm glad. I'm definitely I'm glad that I got involved in early as I did. And you look at a lot of these people that get involved early in their childhood, and a lot of times it's like like the parents doing it, blah blah blah. I was always advised against it. They were like, like, don't do this, this is probably not a great idea, and I still did it anyway. um so yeah, it's been a long ride, and Stargirl's my biggest thing to date, and I'm just having a lot of fun on it, and I'm excited to start up again.
Nice, nice. That's pretty awesome to say and stuff. And I really feel in the series you have like a really good sense of maturity in your role also. And I feel like the way Mike Dugan is, it's very like reflective of like what teenagers are going through at that particular set of age and stuff.
Mhm.
Like you're dealing with a lot this season, and I really commend you for your acting chops and like how the script really you reinforce it and take it to the next level, especially that level episode with the Thunderbolt.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great episode, and when Jeff sent that to me, I was really excited to do that. And I always say this, but Mike's character is almost like peeling back the layers of an onion. Like every episode, you kind of get to know a little bit more about him, because he's a very private person, and very kind of kept to himself, as out there and loud and sarcastic as he is. He doesn't actually reveal too much about himself. So yeah, and like that's one of the big things that Jeff has been doing through the end of season one through season two and season three, is just really keep building the human side of Mike. And you're right, he is kind of relatable to a lot of people, his age. Just kind of going into like the teenage years, and kind of figuring out your place in society and life. And I think it's dealt with really well, with also having still that kind of like whimsical superhero ness about it. But yeah, yeah, thanks for saying that. That actually means a lot, because I really do think that's like what Jeff and the creators are going for.
Nice, nice. One thing I love about the show is it's very Sam Raimi Spider Man. It's like very campy, but it's also very adult driven. Also,
Yeah, that's I couldn't agree more with that. The vibe of the show like especially with the first season, it was very like Back to the Future esque, very like I love that like kind of like 80s. I don't even want to say comedy, but like kind of like 80s comedy movie vibes, which was great. And that's honestly Mike's character was originally supposed to be like the annoying like stereotypical like 80s brother, which that was kind of what the role was like proposed to me as at first. And just like the cinematography and everything has changed so much between season one and season two, because as it gets darker, the show's cinematography and directing and stuff like that have also kind of gotten darker. So it's kind of changes its persona, I guess you could say, a little bit from season one to season two, and even like through season one to the end of season one, you can tell it just kind of graduates into a more mature show.
Yeah, one thing I really enjoy about the series is the script behind it, and especially how like the horror elements of season two. Like each
Mm,
season has like a different like theme and brand about it. Like you said, season one is very Back to the Future. Courtney's finding her placement, questioning like why the staff choosing me and stuff. Um, Luke Wilson as Pat Dugan is fantastic.
mm.
Season two is really improved on the cinematography, especially that paintball episode. That was really like very Pennywise horror.
I completely agree with that. It almost feels like to me, like some of the episodes, it almost feels like, like a slightly like American Horror Story-esque, low budget, like, 80s horror film in the best of ways, because it makes it feel like that kind of like cozy small town, like horror kind of flick. And you're 100% right. This last episode, episode 5, like that, those fight scenes and those scenes, and everything like blew me away. It was just really, it's just like it's a cool vibe. Like it's a vibe that I don't think that you really get anymore. It almost has that, like I was saying, like American Horror Story '84 vibes. Just like that really, I yeah, I completely agree with that, and I don't know if, like, that's what they were necessarily, like, completely aiming for or not, but hey, I personally love it. It kinda gives, like, a fresh look at the show because, you go from a show that was that kind of, like, giddy and whimsical and, like, childlike for season 1, and then you kinda go into that sort of stuff. It's a really fun project to work on because it's ever changing.
I know I don't like to compare like DC and Marvel, but I kind of feel like Stargirl, like my sister's 16. She said like Stargirl to her is like what Peter Parker is to other people. Like Tom Holland's Spider-Man is like what Breck Messenger's Stargirl means to her. So I
That's
just wanted to
actually
extend that.
No, that like, someone like Breck would, like, be ecstatic to hear that, and, like, honestly, I think that's that there's always that character, that one character that always, like, kinda, like, resonates with you, like, whether it's superheroes or whether it's a movie, of some other sort, and that's really great to hear because you look at a lot of these characters, it depends, like, there's Supergirl and stuff like that, and those shows are great, but when you get a show like Stargirl, and as playful and honest as it is, like, I can totally see that, Stargirl or, Breck being this kind of, Peter Parker kind of, figure for young girls and young boys. That's really good to hear, actually. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Marvel and DC household, so I watch all the MCU films all the time. I
Yeah,
read a lot of game reviews and stuff for Marvel, so I always have my ear to the ground when it comes to comic books.
definitely. I love Marvel. I grew up on Marvel as well, but
Nice.
yeah.
So my next question would be, you can do any superhero, Marvel or DC. Who's your favorite? It can be even like nerd culture too.
You know, I always, like, usually say, like, Deadpool if I had to choose, because like, that like, I mean, number 1, I love Ryan Reynolds, number 1, and, I just love that humor that he brings to, you know, Deadpool, and it's like and it like, what was really surprising to me about Deadpool was, like, the second Deadpool, like, but both are great, Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, but, like, the second Deadpool really kinda added this, like, level of, like, drama into it, and it was, like, this kind of, like, everything had more stakes than it did initially, and, like, I just think that, like, with this new in this new era of streaming and stuff like that, there's so many shows that shows and movies that really kind of bridge that gap between drama and comedy. And like it's just such an interesting script to me. And like Deadpool's always been around, but like the fact that they executed it so well in the MCU is like, to me, like that's the pinnacle of all of the MCU's movies personally. And again, like I said, like I literally love Ryan Reynolds and I love his humor. I love all that. But yeah, like that's my favorite. That's like the type of film that I gravitate towards too in general. Is that nothing that really sticks to the script, like sticks like one genre, like comedy drama. I always use the term like human movies that are kind of very just flowing in characters and script. uh and yeah, that's honestly like why I love Deadpool so much, and what MCU did with it.
Nice, nice. Um, I just want to like ask and stuff too. Like, do you like how Mike has progressed, like maturity wise, but also story wise? Like, season one, like he's very in the background, very timid, like you said. And when he does defeat Icicle at the end, he's like very like woohoo about it
Yeah,
and stuff. But like the way he is now, it's like he's almost taking like a step further.
honestly, like I would even make the argument that he's a completely different character in season two. Like off screen, we've probably got Mike has changed quite a lot, just mentally. And when that comes to, I think that also just comes to you know having more screen time for Mike. You're seeing him on his bike ride, you're seeing him deal with bullies and things of that nature. And sometimes it's not even the stuff that Mike has to say. Like there's still a lot of those scenes where Mike's like, hey, can I be involved, blah blah blah. And you felt for him to a certain extent. When you actually see what's going on in his life, you're like, okay, this is like, you know, this character, Mike, actually has real feelings, and he actually, feels guilty about killing Icicle. And, just because he said, can I be in the JSA, it doesn't mean that he is dealing with the guilt of actually killing someone. It's like all these things that you're thinking about that's like, if you're looking at like Batman and Robin, I'm sure that Robin, probably had a lot of guilt doing the type of stuff that Batman and Robin were doing. But he's a sidekick character and he's not explored as much. And honestly, that's kind of the stuff that Pat's character, or Luke's character, was. They kind of teased at in the beginning of even episode 3, that he's always left out, he's always blah blah blah, and he's just looked at as the sidekick. That's what Mike has always been looked at, as the sidekick, the comedic relief, the this, the that, the blah blah blah. Like you say jump, I say how high. Like wherever Mike needs to be, he is. And now that he's like, no, I actually have a life. This is what I'm dealing with. It makes you feel for him more. And I just think that it's just more how they're positioning Mike's character to the audience is making him more relatable and making him make you feel for him more. And also, what makes you feel for him the most, in my opinion, is when he's talking to Yolanda about stuff like that, because he realizes that she understands as well. So I just think it's really well done, and it does show such a gigantic leap for Mike. And honestly, throughout season 2, it just gets more and more. You just delve like dive more and more into it. So this is definitely like not. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
That's really good to know. Um, I want to add to your point and stuff because that was an excellent analysis of your arc and everything. And I do love the duality of like how Yolanda's dealing with her PTSD of killing Brainwave, not only Brainwave Junior but Brainwave Senior, and like how Mike killed Icicle. It's a way like that. You two took a life. These two characters took a life. Courtney never took one. Beth never took one, and it's something you have to live with. And it really shows the humanity and how tangible this story truly could be in our world.
Yeah,
It's very human.
yeah. That's the beauty of it, is that in what other superhero show are you seeing two, overwhelmingly innocent characters to begin with. Mike and Yolanda are very, innocent people to a regard. And, you're kind of looking at like this, tear them apart from the inside out. And you can replace killing a superhero with anyone, with anything, it doesn't just have to be killing a superhero or something outlandish as that, but you're taking these outlandish scenarios and putting them into real life human stories, which I think Jeff does a terrific job at. Because if you took like the scene on the porch with Yolanda and you switch some stuff around, you could put that in, a motion picture about, something completely different, and you could probably get away with it because that's just how it is. It's not overwhelmingly this or overwhelmingly that. It's I'm presenting this to the audience as a raw, real emotional scene, and do with that what you will. And I think it's a perfect way to go along with pushing all this new emotion and drama into superhero shows. Honestly, because Stargirls, definitely like was that kind of new wave of seeing that with all these superhero shows and stuff like that, but I don't see it being the last. I just think that it's really going to influence, superhero shows and movies and stuff like that in the future because you look at what, people like Scorsese say, and I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with them, but how he's like, like the MCU isn't, those aren't films. That's not cinema to him. And it's, well, I can see where you're coming from, definitely. Like, I don't personally agree, but you can see where someone like Scorsese is coming from, and I think people are moving away from that into that. Hey, these are superhero films, but they could also display real issues and real problems and real emotion. So, I'm honestly just thankful to be on a show that's one of those first kind of, you know, all around introspectively driven shows.
Nice, nice. That's a really good response to that.
Yeah.
One of my friends was asking me, he's like, "How do you feel the character of Mike Dugan would symbolize and also connect with characters like Jonathan and Jordan Kent from Superman and Lois? Would he be like, 'Yeah, I'm part of a super family,' or would he be like, 'I know what you're feeling'?"
I think that Mike, I think that Mike's story has been told multiple times, not even just in superheroes or whatever it may be in any superhero kind of universe. But I also think just Mike's story is one that's always been told and it's always been overlooked just because of the essence of Mike's character. So when you bring that up, that's actually a very good point because that there's these stories that kind of there's some running trends of stories throughout the whole show. It's the traditional good versus evil, and then it kind of dives into this, what if the good guys are not that great and what if the bad guys are not that bad kind of thing. And it's like you're kind of just bending the rules of all these traditional characters. It's like you look at, I don't even know what a great example is for like for Mike's character, but I completely know what you mean. Like he's on the outskirts and he's overlooked and he's this and he's that. That story's been told millions of times, but it's just the way that the show handles it. All of the arcs of every character are so unpredictable that it can go anywhere. That Mike's character from season 1 is not gonna be the same at the end of, season 2 or the beginning of season 3. So I wouldn't even really box him in necessarily to any of that because he really does take on something that no one will be expecting. And, I know I knew, like when Jeff was talking about season 2 with the cast and everything like that, initially the plans for season 2 were a lot bigger than they were, ended up being because of Corona and guidelines and stuff like that. But these plans were outlandish and amazing and huge, and it kind of gave us a glimpse into what season 3 was going to look like because they pushed a lot of that into season 3. And like it's just going to be a wild ride these next few seasons, definitely. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, they look at like a Riverdale or they look at like this and that and they're like, oh well, Riverdale became like a musical. Like that's not going to happen, right? It's all going to be grounded and tangible and real. But yeah, I just think that Mike is, just a very complicated character. Maybe not to the naked eye, but as the seasons go along, he's gonna change fundamentally.
Nice, nice. Um, Another thing I want to ask and stuff, do you feel like you grew as a person, like the more Mike progresses? Like, are you and Mike connected?
100%. Yes, I feel that definitely. I think everyone on the set, everyone on the show has said the same thing that these last 3 years have been has been a time for growing for all of us. It's it's been very interesting to see kind of how closely some of these like little character quirks and traits, not even like necessarily like the overarching arc of these characters are similar to us, but some of these little quirks and traits and stuff that you can kind of see in yourself. And yeah, also I think just like the people around us, like, like I'm very close on set with Luke and Cam and Hunter and stuff like that. And we've all said it many times that this show has made us mature and as actors, as people, and it's just like this really weird, like overwhelming feeling that these last 3 years have just been like this almost like fever dream because when you're working so consistently and you're you have long hours and you're doing all these things that you get to know yourself so well because you're literally in a nutshell for 6 months trapped with these people in this city filming this show. It's no matter twist and turn, sometimes it is a lonely process. Actors get lonely. That's what we do. That's our side
Yeah.
hustle. So it's sometimes it's miserable, sometimes it's amazing, and through all of that, you don't really have too much to distract yourself other than your character that's already pretty similar to you. So you get to find out a lot about yourself, over a 6-month period, which is crazy. And every season you go into, you're more clear-minded. So, like every season is just going to be better than the last. It's like looking at like Sopranos or like one of these great shows like Breaking Bad or, it just every season that goes on, you could tell how comfortable they get, you know? And season two, I consider it to be, an even better season than season one. And I'm sure that Jeff is, going to absolutely deliver on season three as well. And it's probably going to be, even better than season two. So we're just going to continue trying to up our game and see what happens.
Nice. Nice. I really look forward to that. I'm enjoying Mike's story, enjoying everybody's story on it. One thing I always wanted to know and stuff is like, you can do marketing and stuff for it. You can promote the show, but like, what would be one thing that you could tell someone you've never seen Stargirl before, but this is what it offers?
I've actually thought about this because I always tell everyone that like I don't usually watch superhero shows because I don't usually watch superhero shows, but I even if I wasn't in Stargirl, I'd still probably watch it because it's not to me necessarily even a superhero show. It's 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 like it's a comfort show to me. It brings back what old TV used to be, Like when I grew up on old TV shows all the time. I grew up on Newhart and MASH and all these things that like, when you would sit down, you would watch it, you would just have this fuzzy feeling inside, you would just like, watching Alan Alda or Bob Newhart or, like Cheers or anything like that. And their deliveries and their characters. You knew their characters so well and you knew the vibe of the show so well when you sit down, you're not going to be surprised by it. It's not like you're trying to change the world with this show, but subconsciously you're lifting the spirits of the American people almost. Honestly, you're looking at that like that. You look at all like those shows, like I said, and people watch them with their families, and it was a communal experience. And no matter how you twist and turn, you look at streaming and you look at how cinema and TV has progressed over the years. It's become a very individualized thing. And Stargirl completely overrides that. It's on network, it's on every Tuesday at 9, and it just kind of brings back that warm, fuzzy family feeling with good story and good cinematography. It's fun to look at, it's easy to follow. And I just think that it's just a show that everyone needs every so often, just a show that you can really just sit down and just like forget, and you're watching a Cheers or you're watching a Newhart or you're watching a MASH. And that's what it is. And I'm thankful we provide that. There's so many beautiful shows out, currently, and you look at some that like are as deep as like, even things like Euphoria or Barry or all these different shows that are like it's an experience. You're sitting down and you're indulging in this show either alone or with other people. But at some point, you're just like, I just need a break, and I just want to watch some Stargirl, right? Like that's the best that I would describe it. It's a show that we've been missing for a long time.
It's a show we've been missing for a long time. I do. I honestly like that. It hits really home because like when I watched the pilot last year when it came out, I wrote an article called "Stargirl: A Breath of Fresh Air for the Arrowverse," and that's like how I got discovered by Daily Planet and stuff. And
Mm,
it was great. It had an Art Deco style. The acting was great. The script is phenomenal. And it felt like I was a kid again watching like Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series. It's like childhood euphoria brought to life, and it shows what our heroes that we really look upon and say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna embolize them, and they're real.
yeah,
It's just great.
yeah, and like the thing that I always loved is like the feeling of like like when you're going to a theater and watching a new uh, superhero movie or like Star Wars or something, and like it just feels safe. Like you cherish that feeling. It's that you cherish the feeling of walking in the cinema and getting your popcorn and going with your friends or your girlfriend or your parents or your family, and it's just like it's just something that resonates with Americans with pop culture, and it's just something like I literally said that just we've been missing for a long time. I haven't seen or watched a show like Stargirl in a long time, and honestly, I didn't realize how much I missed it until I'm watching it now and I'm engaged. And like with the special effects and some I love that stuff. I'm like, oh my god, like look at the special effects, looks so good. Like it still excites me. It excites me and at the same time comforts me, and it's just like literally like something like going to see a Star Wars film or going to see Endgame. Like that's what it's almost like. Like when I went to see Endgame with all my friends, like I was so excited and hyped up. And then when I sat down, I just like felt at peace. Even though I know it was going to be like the chronological, like last, it's Endgame. It didn't matter. It just felt like peaceful to me. And like that's what I almost equate the feeling of watching Stargirl to, is just like having that old nostalgic feeling back of just going into the theater and watching a story of these characters that you love. And also at the same time the fan service is amazing. Pulling out all these old superheroes in the first place is just like something that's so like Jeff to do. Like he's someone that loves like superheroes and comics with every ounce of his heart. And you could tell like when like I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and you're looking back like in the old Republic and all these like different things, and like the these like old weird like Jedi Knights before lightsabers were around and stuff like that. And like that's always a movie that I wanted to see come to fruition. But then you have people like Kathleen Kennedy and all these like people that don't really see what the fans see. Jeff sees what the fans see. Jeff is a fan through and through. So if you're a fan and you want to see all these old superheroes like Icicle and Brainwave and all these people that haven't had as much fan service as they should and as they deserve, then that's just like so fun to me. It's like I'm watching a fan put what he wants on paper and then making a TV show about it. Like, do not take power away from this man because we need to protect him like at all costs. So like that's how I look at it. And it's just really fun. It's I really do think that we're, putting some good content out into the world.
No, I just want to be honest and stuff. Before I watched Stargirl, I didn't even know anything about it. And then, like talking to you right here and stuff, I feel like I read all the comics, and I still didn't. I'm just being honest.
Neither have
Like,
I. Like this all the stuff that I've just gotten from Jeff. Like I'm just like pushing it out. But yeah, like that's the beauty of it, is like when you have someone that charismatic and that like good at like putting stuff onto screen, it's like you don't even have to know those characters, but when you find out about it, you're like, oh, that's cool. Like I respect that. So yeah. Yeah.
I also really enjoy the series because, like you said, with the fan service, like fans know their stuff. They're like, if
Mhm.
Courtney doesn't talk this way or she doesn't wear a certain T-shirt, people are like, "What's going on?" Like they know their stuff. And the way Jeff is like really carrying the script and everything, it's very like Kevin Feige-ish. like how
Oh,
Marvel just
definitely.
nails it.
That's a great example, or even John Favreau-ish, just like, like the way even like John Favreau handled The Mandalorian and stuff like that. It's just like there's an over you can tell when there's an overwhelming sense of someone that knows what they're doing. Always. Like you look at franchises throughout all of history. You can look at Game of Thrones, right? Like what the hell was season 8? No one knows,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And like that turnover of power and that turnover of, you know, intuition with scripts. And honestly, a lot of it just comes down to intuition. This feels right and I'm going to do it and I have the jurisdiction to do it, so I will. That's really all it comes down to. But yeah, like you're completely right. Like he just does have that overwhelming presence of just like knowing what he's gonna do. And single-handed, like look at Favreau and bringing back Iron Man and making a ton of money. Like you look at back like in the old days when DC was running the game and MCU was not a thing, and you're bringing back Robert Downey Jr., a washed-up actor that was in jail, and putting him in an Iron Man suit and making a ton of money and revitalizing a whole entire franchise. Like that, I think is what Jeff is capable of, and like it's just like literally he can you can probably create a whole entire cinematic universe with the characters in the show and the people surrounding them. You could probably make a movie off of all these characters. I don't know if he wants to or if he should, but you could. So that's the beauty of it, is that you kind of like start connecting the dots and you're like, this man is literally like a mogul and a visionary, and it's really cool. And it's a pleasure to work for him. Like, like I always say that it's like Jeff keeps me coming back, how excited he is and how much vision he has. You really feel like every actor is always constantly preaching about, I want to get to know my script. I want to know my director. I want to feel comfortable with my director. And, there's so many cool indie films and stuff like that. And that's always what I've wanted to do, is just work on a really good indie film. That's besides the point. Just to be close with a director, to know a director, like a Scorsese, De Niro type thing, And that's what we're frankly lucky enough to have, is that we're so close with Jeff that it just feels like he can mold anything that he wants and, and make it look good on screen. And we're all very thankful for that.
now, one thing I wanna say also too to close this out, because I know we're running on time a little.
Yeah.
Um, if I told you, like, because I went to Terrificon, and I went to the panel for the Batman the Animated Series 30th anniversary. If I told you, like, how people say Stargirl has the potential to be the next Smallville,
Mhm.
or has something to be like the next Batman the Animated Series, do you feel like you guys can rise to that, or do you feel you're already there?
I think that's up to the fans. I don't really think we have any jurisdiction over that. Personally, I think the content's there. I think the talent's there, and I think the work is there. But you look at like those shows mentioned and how much they mean to fans and how much you know like it's like the Jordan thing, like Jordan's like, I never proclaimed myself to be the greatest of all time, the people did. So again, it's really up to the fans. It's up to what they think. And seeing 2 seasons in, we're like, well, a season and a few episodes in at this point, honestly. Do I think we could be on track to doing that? Definitely, without a doubt. And I think that we'll see him, and it is even like a slightly different vibe as well. Like Stargirl could be a completely different entity. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in these next few seasons, and we don't know what it's going to be defined as. Like every great show is always defined by something. You know, like I always use Sopranos and Breaking Bad as like the pinnacle of TV, because it is. And then you look at these characters and these like little side plots and everything that really make it shine. And Stargirl has that. Like they have the human moments that make it shine, which is like these cool, like I said, like little side plots, side characters, all these things that just make it feel complete. And yeah, it has the heartbeat, and I think that it all depends on the fans. But hey, we might be on track to that. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's a great way to end that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just yeah, I'm just really excited for everyone to, see the rest of season 2. And we're all excited to start season 3 here in a little bit. That's going to be fun. We're all very happy that we're on this new shooting schedule, which is we're shooting through winter, not summer, because summer in Atlanta is just hell, as everyone
Ooh,
knows. Yeah, I know. It's thank the Lord. Um, but yeah, we're all just really excited to come back and do it again, and who knows what the future will hold.